Hello, everybody, and welcome to Industrial Automation. It doesn't have to. In case you're new to the program, I'm Brandon Ellis. I'm your host and also the owner of elliTek. As we jump into the episode for today, I want to ask that you hit that follow button and subscribe button based upon the platform that you're listening on. And if you're listening specifically on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you enjoy what you hear today, leave us a 5-star rating and review. We sure would appreciate it. Now that we've got the marketing out of the way, I just want to say thanks for tuning in. So, let's get started. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Industrial Automation. It doesn't have to. I'm Brandon Ellis, your host. I want to welcome, as always, my wonderful co-host and our producer, Miss Beth Elliott.
Wow, that was quite an introduction. Thank you, Brandon.
Well, quite an introduction because this will be our wrap-up for 2022.
Yes, quite a year, hasn't it been?
Quite a year. Now, what we've done in years past is we've looked back on the episodes we've done before, and we've kind of said, we talked about this, that, and the other, and that's not what we're going to do today.
No, we're going to veer a little off course, aren't we?
A little bit off course, but this is because of we had one of our listeners that had asked about this and wondered if this might be something we would consider or had done before. And so I'm not going to jump into what it is, but we're doing that topic today. We'll get to that in just a bit. However, for now, what's new in the news?
Yeah, I was going to ask you if there are any improvements on lead times.
Well, let's see. Some yes, some no. And now, that's kind of like saying, is there an improvement on the stock market on Wall Street? And so there has been as of this recording, an improvement, but it seems like we have periods of improvement, and then all of a sudden it drops back. And so, we're gonna have to see. We're not out of the woods, because even if you're talking about supply chain shortages or resin shortages, they've been substantial enough that they've basically created a large backlog of orders. And so, even if suddenly the supplies are there, you've still got to dig out. Yeah. And so there'll be a time. What I will say is that if it's something that's in high demand, there's a larger backlog for it. If there's something that's less in demand, probably get it quicker. Yeah. And so we're starting to kind of see that, I think. But I do think this is going to span in. Now, as far as automotive goes, there's a whole lot of articles back and forth on that. On the one hand, you see that I saw an article the other day that I think was Toyota this month, between last month and this month, have realized a large move forward as far as new vehicles off the line. And so their production was up. Okay. But year over year,
it's down.
Production's down a long way. And so that's the reason I compare it to the stock market is, from on a per day or per month, looks like they're going forward, but then per year, not so much. And so there's some dig out where we've got to make our way back. But there are situations in those industries and with our manufacturers that we're starting to see an uptick of inventory on the shelf, or a downtick of days, delivery days, wait time is coming down a little. Some of it's still flat. I'm seeing more stuff flat. We're seeing more stuff flat as far as how many days, working days or weeks to get something. Whereas, even as little as a month ago, we were still seeing some things pushing forward, still going up as far as longer delays.
Okay.
So we're seeing those delays begin to either not get worse.
Okay, so they're leveling out a little bit?
Yeah, level out,
okay,
or shorten a little bit, but it's not a steep decline. So we're gonna stick on the optimistic side and say it's not getting worse.
That's a positive in my point of view.
So it may be a turning point, but it may slip a little. We'll see. So there's a lot of stuff going on. China's still dealing with. They've had a what do you call it?
A resurgence?
COVID. Yes, thank you. Resurgence. That's a good word of COVID over there, and so they're dealing with all that and trying to decide how to do that with their policies. And of course, a lot of the stuff that we need comes from China, and so we're dealing with that. Even though in Europe they're waiting for stuff, and so it's just not gonna fix itself in a day.
No.
So
Well, at least it's getting a
little bit better.
maybe.
Maybe a little. It's just, and this has been the riddle all year long. Manufacturers, distributors, machine builders, whatever, as soon as word gets out that there's something available, then it's gone.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, we found something. We can start using
Don't tell
these.
anybody.
Don't tell anybody. That's right. Keep that to yourself. It seems to be the mantra.
Yeah.
What else?
Oh, well, yes. So what do you have planned for your holidays for Christmas and New Year's and that fun stuff?
We have no solid plans, and that's and so why is that? Of course, we certainly go see my mother, and we look forward to seeing my brother and his family, and of course my wife's family, and we'll try to see them. But I've actually I'm very involved with my church, and I'm part of the worship team, the worship leadership, and I drew the short straw or long straw, whichever. So Christmas is on Sunday this year, and so I'll be at our church this Sunday.
Oh, you're going to lead the worship?
Leading the worship on
Okay.
that Sunday on the 25th.
Okay.
And we also have a Christmas Eve service, so
Do you do
I'll be
both?
there for that.
Okay. So you have to lead.
So Saturday night and Sunday morning.
You get to.
I get to do that, yeah, and it is a lot of fun to do. It's just that I hadn't drawn that straw. Of course, Christmas hasn't been on Sunday in a while.
Yeah,
I think it was
6
Saturday.
years?
I guess last year. Is it every?
Well,
every 6 years?
Because
Yeah.
it's a leap year.
Yeah, that's right. So it's been a minute. Probably never. I don't know. I've been doing this for 20-some years. I don't know how many times because you have to get it, and you have to. I'm not the only one, so we rotate, and so your rotation has to fall on it. But I'm lucky enough to get to be the one.
Yes.
So that means we're going to be sticking close, and that'll be good.
Yeah.
Last year it snowed down here in Tennessee.
That's right. It did.
It did, and it was beautiful up until about Christmas Eve at about 8:30 p.m. when the power went out.
Oh, yeah.
And we had massive power because it was a really wet Christmas Eve snow. And so we had trees down and stuff, and that made it kind of interesting. But anyway, hopefully we won't have that much of a interesting Christmas this year. So we certainly hope that you all are planning for a great Christmas and then of course a happy New Year. How about you? Have you got big holiday plans?
I have no idea yet.
You going to be in Christmas parades or anything like that?
Oh yeah, usually.
You be doing your little wave? You've been working on it?
Yes, I think I've got it down pat here.
That's right. Last time I was in a Christmas parade, I was probably 8 Cub Scouts or something.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get on with today's title.
All right. So today's title is Industrial Automation. It doesn't have to be unmotivated.
Unmotivated. And so we kind of went back and forth about the title on this.
Yeah.
So this was actually a request that was made to me about folks that are interested in possibly getting out. They've got that. They feel like they may have that entrepreneurial spirit and be thinking about kind of striking out on their own, and the concepts of what that looks like from an engineering standpoint as far as engineers are concerned, but also that type of business. But I've got an interesting spin I want to put on that as well for all of you manufacturing managers out there, because certainly you're having probably a difficult time finding and possibly hanging on to the talent that you've got, especially in your engineering groups and some of your technical folks, but maybe across the board. And so we'll save that to the end. So stick with us to the end. We are going to try to shoot for our 35-minute mark. We didn't catch that last time, but that's where my heart is. We're shooting for that. But we had a lot of good stuff on the last podcast. So walk us into your research.
All right. So just because you own a business doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. And so I looked up the definitions for entrepreneur and business owner, and Oxford Dictionary defines entrepreneur as a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risks to do so.
Yes.
And you know that from
Yeah.
a personal standpoint there. And then for a business owner, it's defined as an individual or entity who owns a business entity in an attempt to profit from the successful operation of the company. So just be entrepreneur and small business owner, they're more than just titles. They carry on with them different mindsets, behaviors, different legal statuses. So do you have anything you'd want to add to that?
Okay, so I will say this. There's a difference between starting a business from the ground up. That means, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but there's just a difference when you have a business that you're taking over or assuming. So if someone had a business that their grandfather started or their father started or grandfather then to father, and now they're picking up the reins, or mother or sister or whatever, and it doesn't have to be a family member, somebody else. Maybe you're acquiring a business, which it does require maybe some more upfront finances than the ground up concept, but both of them require a certain amount of financing be in place. And so what I normally have told folks that I have mentored. Now, keep in mind that I still consider myself in the mentoring role, even though I've been doing this since, my first business I started in, I guess, 2002. That was not engineering. It was a general contracting company. But elliTek was started in 2009, and the contracting company was great. It's just that after doing that for a while, I decided I missed engineering.
Okay.
And so I wanted to get back into engineering, and so that's the reason that was a profitable business, and I wish I could say I sold it for millions of dollars. I didn't. I just took care of the stuff we had, the work we had done, and just stopped doing it. But everybody was paid and everybody was happy, and we just kind of stopped doing it. But it was just me. It was me and one partner, but still, as far as principals, we had a few part-time employees, but nothing major.
Okay.
And so that brings up another thing. So again, just to finish that thought, starting a business from the ground up, my advice is make sure that you have at least 6 months worth of living expenses. Even better to have 12 months, so you don't have to worry about. You're worrying about reinvesting into the business. Basically, you're not worrying about how am I going to get myself a paycheck to take care of my home, my family, the car payments, whatever. You need to have that, because if you don't, you're going to be all worried about that. Mm-hmm. And the best advice that I've been given by any of my business mentors was basically plenty of bad decision has been made over the chance of good profit. And so that the more desperate you find yourself, you'll take on things that are outside of your wheelhouse or really don't fit with your business plan. Mm-hmm. And at the thought of the hope of seeing this huge profit, and what you find is that it wasn't a fit. You shouldn't have taken it, and now you're in a bit of a pickle.
It hurts more than it helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, and so you need to do what you're good at and stick to that. Now the other thing that's different is, are you a sole proprietor? You're talking about legal setup. So a sole proprietor just means you're an individual, and nothing wrong with that. The only difference between people have asked me, do I need to be an LLC, a limited liability corporation, or from that you go up to an S corporation, and then of course if you're a Fortune 100, Fortune 500, you're going to go to a C corporation there, but you don't need to worry about that as long as you're small. That's not a small business thing. And the answer is, well, number one, sole proprietor versus any of those corporations, LLC or S corp, comes down to limited liability. What that means is if you mess something up and you get sued, can they sue you and have access? The lawyers have access to your personal assets, your home, your car, your bank account.
Yeah.
If you are in a business where you might, and when I'm talking about messing up, I'm not necessarily talking about, messing up accounting or something like that. I'm talking about more technical and engineering. So if you're working on equipment or something and someone gets hurt, or you miss something and they decide that it's negligence, that kind of stuff. I mean, those are real risks that you're taking. You need to understand those. You need to have insurances in place for that. But one additional thing is limited liability, which means that they can come and all they can get to is all the assets that belong to the corporation, and they can't come get your personal.
Okay.
So you're not exposed personally from a legal standpoint. Outside of that, to start with, there's not that many tax advantages and things like that. There's probably more disadvantages to the S corporation because of business taxes. You get taxed. I'm considered an employee of elliTek. elliTek is an S corporation. It has stock, but I'm an employee, and so the money that comes into elliTek doesn't just go into my bank account. It actually goes into the business accounts, and we pay taxes on that. And then I pay payroll taxes just like you and everybody else. And so some folks see that as double taxation because the business is getting taxed and you're getting taxed. And if it was just me, I wouldn't be you wouldn't. It doesn't make sense to be an S corp
if it's just one person.
If it's just one person. Now, it's according to what you're doing.
Okay.
S corporations have a hard time, according to the legal people that I've talked to. Check with all of your legal resources and accountants. I'm not either of those. So my understanding, though, for reasons that I don't quite understand and don't really care to understand, just want to believe the people that I've given money to.
Yeah.
Is that S corporations aren't ideal for owning real estate, but an LLC is. So if you're going out and buying properties for rentals and things of that nature, you probably want to use an LLC. Now, that was the advice that was given to me. Go check on that if you're going to do that. But if you're going to be a systems integrator, or a machine builder, or a machinist, or a welder, or something like that, a technician going out and doing PLC programming, troubleshooting, repairs, that kind of stuff, you probably want to consider limited liability, an LLC, at the minimum, just because, and then you'll want to consider those insurances, and these are real expenses, to cover errors and admissions and cover general liabilities and that kind of thing. So that's just smart to do. But the smartest thing, whether you're going to be a sole proprietor, whether you're going to be a limited liability corporation, all of those things should be part of your business plan.
Yes.
And that you have to do. You have to do it. And if you're acquiring a business, you have to do it. And that may include what they're already doing, but you have to do it because a business plan lets you understand all the aspects that you're going to have to deal with. And
do you want to go down briefly what's in a business plan?
Well, goodness. Main thing about the business plan is you're going to talk about your you break it up. So what's your general mission statement? What's your goals? What's your financial statement look like? Where are you going to get the funds for all these things? Of course, you have to create all the departments you're going to need. If you're a single person, that's the other thing. A lot of people go into business and that's great. I am pro entrepreneurial type spirit. Get out there. The United States is driven off the backs of small business. There's no question about that. If you feel like that's what you do and you're skilled to do that, I encourage you to give it a shot. But just go into it with your eyes open. Don't just jump in with eyes closed and hope things are going to work out. Prepare. The business plan lets you do that. But it helps you understand all the things you may not have thought about. So if you're thinking about, I'm on the fence, should I start this business or not? Go ahead and write a business plan. Don't wait until you've decided. That's not something that's part of your decision-making skill.
Okay.
Is write the business plan. And if you can't write the business plan,
then there's no point.
There's no point.
Yeah.
Oh, and you shouldn't be in business. You're not cut out for being in business if you can't force yourself to sit down and go through all those things. Because it's a lot to go through. Mm-hmm. Now, I love business development, and I love the idea of starting businesses and building businesses up. That's kind of what I enjoy. I enjoy it just like taking pieces and parts of automation equipment and figuring out how to stick them together in a clever way and have them do something that everybody else said couldn't be done. That's exciting for me. Not everybody's cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so your business plan is going to go through all those kind of things. To any business has to have it.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely an entrepreneur. And I know we've talked about it before, but for those new to the audience, do you want to briefly explain why you started elliTek?
Well, I kind of had to. So elliTek started in 2009. And what else happened in 2009?
It was a recession, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. And so I was actually working for another company, great company, doing some things. But my job was business development. And initially I had built some stuff up, and then it had just it had been successful. And now I was kind of being expected to stick around and manage it. And that's
not an entrepreneur.
It might be. I mean, there are plenty of entrepreneurial type people that are growth people. They don't have any interest in starting something from nothing. But once that something is started, you can bring them in, or they could come in, acquire the business, that kind of thing, and take it from 0 to 60 as far as growth. But that's not. As we've built up our business, as elliTek is built up, we get it to a point, and now all of a sudden this little thing over here needs to be grown. We're to a point where we need marketing. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hire a marketer, and so we hired you. That's your thing. Now that doesn't mean that you're not necessarily an entrepreneurial type person because you're working for somebody. You can, if you're allowed, and you've been allowed to basically have the reins.
I know, I appreciate it.
And take off with it, and do that. So we'll circle back to that.
Okay.
But as far as why I started elliTek, I was getting kind of bored. I didn't expect that we were going into such a hard recession as 2009. But I knew we were going into something big because the company I was working for, there were rumors of potential layoffs coming. And I thought, being an engineer, business development and applications engineer, I thought that it might save some jobs, and I didn't really want to be there because I was kind of done and wasn't being, really challenged with anything else. And so I voluntarily left to start elliTek. And it was rough, to do during a recession year. But I felt like by me jumping ship, honestly, I was thinking it might save some jobs, and I don't really want to be here. I want to try something different. And so I had done my business planning and things of that nature and decided to give that a shot. Now, it was just me then.
Yeah.
So that brings up another big difference. Starting a business that's just you. And we talked about the difference between assuming a business versus starting a business. Starting a business is just you is fine. If you're starting a business with intent of having employees, then it takes on a whole new dimension. And it has to. So your business plan needs to be not just wrought with finances and strategies and marketing and sales strategies and things of that nature. It also needs to have a bit more empathy, because now if you're planning to hire people, you have to care about them. You have to, and you will, as a business owner, when you realize that it's not just about covering the bottom line and making the profit and keeping the ledger in the black. It's about making sure that these people that have put their trust in you, who have their families of their own, are dependent upon you to get them their paycheck. And so if you can't get them their paycheck, then what do we do? So nevertheless, it's a different thing. So just you is one level of complexity. You plus others that are dependent upon you makes it take a totally different point of view.
Yeah, and I know you take that to heart for sure.
Well, you have to.
Excuse me.
That's the interesting thing. No, that's fine. So
I'm sorry, I had to
swallowed a bubble.
Something like that. So How does elliTek look now versus when you first started? Because we're kind of talking about that right now.
Well, elliTek was just me when it started. So, honestly, in some senses, it's easier.
With it just being you?
Just me.
Yeah.
In just as many instances, it's harder because I've got to get it all done. And I've got to do everything. I've got to take care of the accounting. I've got to take care of accounts payable. I've got to enter the orders. I've got to manage the orders. I've got to purchase everything. I've got to build everything. I've got to program everything. I mean, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. But when you start bringing on people, those things, hopefully, if you've hired good people, which we have, I've been lucky to have, those things tend to go away, but whole new aspects come into play. And so, and as you get more and more people, certainly, we're still a small business, but as we get more people, there's more personalities. I'm big on the team. You know that. I want to make sure the team is a great team. I want to make sure the culture is preserved, that everybody enjoys being here, that anybody that doesn't want to be here is allowed and encouraged to bring that to the table so that we can help them, support them in finding something that's more in their wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. I'm not big on forcing people to stick around if they don't want to be here. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think it tears down the culture. Mm-hmm. But culture is part of my business plan. That's got to be in your business plan if you're thinking about having employees. Because if it's just you, then the culture is whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if you're going to grow, then you're going to have to rely on people. And maybe that starts out as part-time or temporary or even subcontractors and things of that nature. But that even brings about some new personalities that can clash and things of that nature. So you got to make sure that all the wheels, all the cogs in the machine fit together well. Mm-hmm. So it's just a different, it looks a lot different, yes. But it's just a different set of challenges.
Yeah. So what are the advantages of being an engineer and an entrepreneur? And then are there disadvantages?
Well, I haven't found a whole lot of I don't just say engineer, but technical people who are also entrepreneurial spirits that start their own business. And I think the reason is because most of us, especially with the engineering mindset, tend to be cynics, where we basically, and let me play that out, basically, I could start the business, I could do this, and this, but honestly, if I did that, then this would probably happen, and that wouldn't be good. And then, they'd probably do this, or I couldn't do that, or you know what, I'm just not even going to fool with it. And I think that cynicism, we basically play it out in our minds and think it through to the point of saying, it's not worth the risk. I see that a lot with engineers. People with business and marketing, sales and marketing type backgrounds or educations, you give them a job with an incentive program and they're all over it. Mm-hmm. Engineers don't like incentive programs. They want it to be very standard for the most part. And so I'm kind of a different type of person, I guess, because I love the incentive programs. I always did. I want to figure out how we can, hit the numbers, exceed our goals, and it's not just about the money; it's about the winning. Mm-hmm. And again, that comes back to that fervor of business development for me.
Yeah, I liked when we were reviewing this the other day how you talked about each department and how you've pictured
it's just a machine.
It's a machine, and I never thought of it that way. And I think that's the engineering,
and that's an advantage, I think, to being an engineer. First of all, if you can get your head around the accounting, but accounting, and everybody's like, well, math, you're an engineer, you should be able to do that. But accounting is a form of engineering. With all of it's not just debits and credits, just additions and subtractions. There's a lot of accounts, and I call them buckets. And so you've got to make sure this money is allocated into this bucket and this bucket and this bucket, and pulled from this bucket, and all these, that everything's got to be put in its way and its place. And that's just within accounting. Now you zoom out from that a little bit, and of course, that my background is not just motion; it's also SCADA systems, and so. in a SCADA system, you're interfacing with ERP systems and things of that nature. And so the ERP software manages all the different departments. Well, those are all the different mechanisms in the machine. If you don't have an ERP system, you're doing it manually. But still, you have to make everything work. So you, in our marketing department, have to have things from engineering. You have to have things from me, from the president. You have to have things from the shop and all this kind of things, even from engineering and that kind of deal to create the content, to create the verbiage and all this kind of stuff. If you don't have those things, then the machine stalls, and we don't get the fantastic marketing that you produce. The websites, the social media posts, the collateral, all that stuff falls apart because your talent is to put that together and present it in a good way. But
I need your all's
knowledge from engineering. You need accounts payable to pay for the website.
Yeah, right.
you got to have those things. And so I see it as a machine. Every part has to work. In a machine, you have the PLC that's controlling the machine. You have servo motors, and you have the drives are driving the motors. This axis is going to do this while the robot does that, and all this kind of thing. And everything has to work together in harmony. And when it doesn't, then that's when unpleasant times occur. And so, from a business management standpoint, yes, I think the engineering mindset does come into play there when you kind of begin to see it's just a simple machine.
Okay. What advice would you tell someone who is considering starting their own business?
Well, let me circle back to what I was alluding to earlier when I said that you had a position where even though you're not a stockholder in this company, you didn't have to put any of your personal finances on the line and buy stock or anything like that. You're an employee, but I've given you or tried to create an environment for you to do what you're best at and trust you to get that done and reward you when you do something great and keep you challenged. And at the same time, commit to you to make sure that all these other mechanisms are able to give you what you need to do your job and succeed. And so essentially, you're running a business. You're allowed to run that business. You're allowed to manage it in that way. Now, you are the single person business. You don't have employees under you. Yeah. But if we ever grew big enough, we've talked about that. We could do that. So the first thing I want to say is I want to speak to the managers. I can say with pretty good certainty that not all the companies that I've worked for in my career, all the jobs that I've had, but a few, one or two, if I had been managed correctly for my entrepreneurial spirit, because most of the time what I've seen is people who have that entrepreneurial type out of the box thinking are termed problem employees.
Yeah, I did read about that.
Yeah. And so if management, because they don't fit the mold, we have square holes and you're a round peg and you don't fit. And I would encourage management to be on the lookout for those, because that person that's termed your problem employee, maybe they're always going to be a problem. And if that's the case, you need to support them on finding something else. If you can't support them inside, the best you can do is support them on the outside. Well, keep an eye open for them, because honestly, I think that those employees, if you manage them correctly, could be your star employee. But you have to keep them doing what they're doing. So again, I alluded to the fact that I love to grow stuff from start something from nothing and grow it up to something. But once it's kind of in place and running, I'm ready for the next challenge. And in those situations, it didn't fit well with the customer, or with the employer. But if they had found ways for me to keep moving to the next thing, I'd probably still be there doing that today.
Okay.
But it was that need to
grow something.
To grow something.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, I've been a nightmare for you, because we get something started, we market it, it starts coming up, it starts getting successful, and I want to pass that off to somebody else, and I come to you and say, here's a new idea.
You are challenging.
And so, but that's why. Because I'm always wanting, that's my need, is I don't want to abandon what we've done. I want it to put somebody over it that can grow it, take over with it. But I'm wanting to start something new. And if I have people that are like that, if what they're wanting to do now, if they come in and say, I've got a great idea, we need to build rockets and compete with SpaceX and Elon. That's not probably going to happen here. But if it's something within our business model that I feel like we can do, and I've had a few employees in the past that said, I've got some idea, and I'm like, hey, give me just a short subset of a business plan, and let's look at it together and see if we can make it work. And I'm fully in support of that. But I think I would challenge the management and managers to look for that. And if you don't know how to look for that, there are books out there, right? There's resources that,
Lots.
what it means to be an entrepreneur and that kind of stuff. You may not be, but read about that and you'll kind of see what some of those aspects are. I've told you a little bit about what my aspects are, but mine might be different. Try to keep those people on your staff, because I think you can do very well with them. Very innovative type stuff, especially with technical folks, if you're giving them the right tools. But you also are going to have to be ready to manage the fact that the person that sits at the desk next to them, who's not got that same fervor, their square pegs, of them saying, well, why does so-and-so get to do that and I have to stay here and do this? Well, the fact of the matter is, it's not what's best for that person that's not got that entrepreneurial spirit. And so that doesn't mean you need to, deny the person that does have it. Utilize that, make it work. And what I think you'll find is by just allowing them to have the autonomy, but give them a clear goal, give them an attainable goal, which means that they've got the resources or can get the resources they need. Me asking you to market something and not giving you any marketing budget, not giving you any materials for, not giving you a website, not giving you a computer, just sets you up to fail. Mm-hmm. That's not the right way to do that. So give you the autonomy and the tools you need. We don't have to go in and do an incentive plan necessarily, but I am going to reward you when I see great things. Even if it's just saying, Beth, here's a note of thanks for all you do for us. And then thirdly, I don't want to second guess you. I don't want to say, no, wait a second. Are you sure about that? Because I hired you because of what you know that I don't. And that comes down to what I'll say to those that are thinking about starting their own business. Do the business plan. If you're looking to grow multiple employees, that kind of thing, the best thing you can do is surround yourself with people that are as smart or smarter than you. Now, I say as smart. They may be smart. They may be smarter than you. Let me say it that way. People that are smarter than you doesn't mean that, you're hiring geniuses and you're dumb compared to them. It means that you have a skill set and knowledge in one area, but you lack skills in other areas. And so to be a business owner, you kind of have to know enough to be effective. Mm-hmm. But you hire people that have those skill sets that you don't have and probably aren't interested in.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, or don't have the time to even
and time certainly comes into play. That's the extra dimension that comes with hiring employees. And this is not disrespectful at all, but it's a different type of complexity, but it is different when your employees are your family members, your kids, your spouse, something like that, your brothers and sisters, that kind of thing, versus here's somebody that I've never met, mm-hmm. that is going to come in here and apply for this job, and I'm trying to decide if I think they can do the job the way that I want it done, and they're trying to decide if they can trust me to give them the job that I tell them I'm going to give them. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole new dimension. You got to get to know each other. You've been here five years?
Yeah.
And we're still getting to know each other. You still come to me and say, I'm like, well, what should I do different? Well, this is something you should, treat me differently this way, or don't present that way, or I'm hey, let's talk about something as soon as the idea flies into my mind, and you're more of a planner. And so as a boss, as an owner, you're no different than a manager. You have to know how to manage people. You have to know how to work with people, and certainly respect what helps make them more effective, more productive.
Yeah.
So again, that's my twist. Managers, if you've got people that are thinking about leaving and starting their own business, take advantage of that. Don't let them get away.
Yeah.
Don't view them as a problem, as a round peg with square holes. Find a round spot for them that you can capitalize off their energy, and you will have a star employee, and they'll be just as happy as if they were running their own business.
Yeah. Would there be any questions that you would ask during the interview to kind of scope out the entrepreneurial spirit?
Well, Elon Musk, of course, Elon's Elon, and, a lot of us think he's a genius and others think he's crazy. But one of the things that I watched an interview with him that he asked, now I'm not saying I asked this, but, of course, his business models, his businesses are very technical. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure you ask the same. Maybe he does ask the same thing. Maybe he doesn't even get involved with the interviews of the people down on the Tesla line making Teslas, actually on the production line. But certainly with the engineers and the developers and all this kind of stuff, what he asks is, he says, number one, tell me about something, recount to me something that you've done in your career that is highly innovative. And then the challenge is, if you're hired, you have 90 days to do something that is equally innovative or more, or you're no longer employed. And that's a big caveat kind of thing. And I don't know that, I'm not Elon, and I don't have Elon's means, so I don't know that I could throw caveats down like that. But I do want to know. I do want to know what they think they can do. Mm-hmm. We talked a lot, not just this past season, but in past seasons. And by the way, congratulations to Beth Elliott and for all of our listening audience who have downloaded and streamed our podcast, because we're at we topped 5,500 downloads the other day.
Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you so much.
Let's see.
Good job.
Can I remember?
I don't know.
Nope. I always hit the laugh track. There it is. The applause that sounds like rain. So thank you for your efforts in that, and thank you everyone for helping us get there. But what now I've lost my train of thought. What did you ask me?
The questions that you could. We're interview questions.
Oh, interview questions, right? Yeah. So we have talked a lot about ROI, return on investment, and as I've listened to, and I've talked to so many people that are like, you can't find anybody to work, or we've had to raise our rates and pay so much more for people and all this kind of stuff. And everybody thinks they deserve this high wage and all this. I hear this from other business owners and other manufacturers and whatnot. And it's not wrong. I mean, we've talked about how it's hard to tell. The reason the analysts are having such a hard time deciding if we're in a recession or not is because we've had record inflation. We've had multiple consecutive down quarters, but we've also seen wages tick up just like the inflation. And that is the wild card that nobody's planned for, because just because the loaf of bread costs $2 more, if you're making $2 more on the hour, you buy it. And so, the recession says that the price goes up, people don't buy it, all of a sudden sales go in the bucket, but the sales aren't going in the bucket. So my point is, there's a return on investment, and I think it's a fair question to come into an interview for the manager or the interviewer to ask you, especially as a small business, first of all, what do you want your salary to be? And ask for what you want. But the second question will be, okay, what do I get out of it? Mm-hmm. Walk me through my return on investment. I'll gladly invest this in you. And I've heard them talk about that you've got to pay them more and pay them more. But my vantage point is, I'll gladly pay somebody more if they can present to me a return on investment, which means what growth are we going to see? In preferably 1 year, but 2 years for sure, we should have. How would you walk me through how our profits would be double what we paid you in 2 years? And I'll sign you up. I mean, because honestly, it's no different than what we're talked about day after day in these podcasts and in conversations. What's the return on investment? It's an investment. Now, employees are more than investments, but they are investments from a business standpoint. And so that's the other thing. If you start your business, all your friends and family and strangers you've never met will think that you're a millionaire, that you've got all this money, and you should be able to pay them all this kind of stuff. And if you're not, it's because you're greedy. And the fact is, that's not how it works. And so, don't be upset
assume.
if that happens. Yeah, and for all of you who aren't, all you employees, they're not millionaires just because you start a business. In fact, they're probably not going to draw a paycheck for quite a long time just getting things off the ground. And so it is a challenge. It's not something to be taken lightly. I encourage entrepreneurship. I said that before. If we can help, I'm not, find a mentor. Find a mentor. I've got 3 or 4 mentors, and some of them just point me to a book to read. Others will sit down and tell me about their firsthand experiences and stuff. But you have to go find them.
Yeah.
And when you find them, embrace it and utilize it. And you don't have to just do what they say. Make it your own.
Yeah.
Test it. But the other thing I would say is managers, don't give them a chance to start their own business.
That's right.
Meet
them where they are and help them grow.
Adapt to what they do. Yeah. Because honestly, I love business development so much that you want to make a good living because money is something, but it's not everything. Yeah. And I say all the time, I can prove it. I guarantee I can find a job that even if I said we'll give you $100 million, $1 billion, gazillion dollars, you'd say, I'm not doing it. Nope. Because you've got to love what you do. And if it doesn't matter how much money somebody offers you. If you hate it, you're not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, we as human beings are just trying to find happiness and completeness. The Bible says, "Blessed is a man who finds joy in his toil." Yeah. And so that's what we want out of it. And I know with some of the younger folks, I was the same way. It's all about follow the dollar. But find someone who's followed the dollar and talk to them about what their experience was, and I'll bet you $1 that you'll find that they say, yeah, I kind of ran and did this, and this, but after it was all over, I came back to what I enjoyed. And a lot of them even took a pay cut. I mean, we've heard it time and time again. People that had big engineering jobs and went into the school system. Yeah. Because they love to teach. Yeah. And unfortunately, school teachers don't make what senior engineers make. Yeah. But it was worth it. Why? Because it was their passion.
Yeah, they enjoyed it. Well, I've enjoyed working for you. And I have. It's
Good.
been a challenge. It's there every day something different. I've learned so many new things, and going into a whole new industry from what I was in into this was a little bit intimidating. But you've helped me grow and learn, and it's been awesome.
Well,
so if people. It's not for everybody working for an entrepreneur,
right?
Because it is challenging, mm-hmm. and you are held accountable. Whereas in a big corporation, you might not be held accountable.
You can hide a little bit.
You can, but you can't just sweep something under the rug and hope that you don't see it.
Well, that's true, but at the same time, big corporations suddenly get text for 10,000 people to no longer work there. Did you hear about that last week?
No.
Some I can't remember who the company was. They sent a text out. It was down in Australia or something like that, so it wouldn't have been in U.S. news. But I texted 10,000 employees and said, You've been let go.
From a text.
It's kind of like breaking up with somebody with a text. Yeah, if you're a small business and I send you a text on that, you're going to probably come to my house and be like Cousin Eddie and the boss in Christmas Vacation. Yeah, that's the difference with small business. Small business is certainly a bit more family culture. Mm-hmm. And then in a larger company, and some people work just are perfect in a large company culture. Yeah. I like it. I like the fact that I know you and I know your husband and I know who your dogs are, and I know our other employees and what they're dealing with and their spouses and children and things of that nature. I like that, and I think but that drives the team, and that again, it all circles back. If I pulled out for you my original business plan for elliTek, we've changed. We started as a systems integration company. We graduated into a machine build systems integration company, and then we graduated into a distributor. And we developed an MES gateway appliance, first ever, and now we manufacture that. And so we have these different things, so the business plan changes, and it's fine for a business plan to change. You just need to start one, and then you need to keep it relevant. But the one thing that you would find that's common to every piece of that is our culture. I wanted to make sure that we had a positive culture and a team environment where we all can work together. No one is encouraged to not say anything when it comes to their job, their performance, what they'd like to see, what their needs are, those kind of things. And so I appreciate that.
Well, that's one of the things that was attractive to me about this was the book that I read before when I was interviewing, and how it was just focused. You're all focused on a goal, and it was a team effort, and you're all focused on a goal, and that's the impression that I got when I was interviewing, was that it was a cohesive team, and people weren't out just doing their own thing, which I thought was good.
Well,
I like it.
But that's what fit with you.
Yeah. It doesn't fit with everybody, but
well, and then what you didn't know is that's exactly the way it is for about a month, and then I'm going to change the goal. No, we still have the old goal. We just got to get a new goal. No, we that's something that you and I have learned on. So anyway, as far as a call to action, my call to action on this to kind of wrap this up, because we're at too long. I just looked at the clock. We're at 50 minutes.
Oh, doggone it.
I'm sorry. So a good conversation, but again, I'll say this: managers, if you have entrepreneurial type folks, embrace them. Try to embrace them. If it makes sense for you, use them, and they will be your star employees. They'll stick around for a long time. Give them the resources they need, the freedoms that you can trust them with, and go from there. It may not work every time, but I think on the long haul, you'll have more good experiences than bad. But if you are out there and you feel like that you want to start your own business, then hey, by all means, give it a shot. There's a lot of resources. I'm not going to get into those, but find a mentor, write a business plan before you do, and then present it to your mentor. That's what I did, and they'll punch holes in it, hopefully, and then go back and write it some more and present it to them and go back and forth. And in that time, start saving up for 6 to 12 months worth of paycheck money, so that if you're single, you don't have to worry about it as much, but you still have to worry about it some. If you've got a family, certainly you want to keep them in mind and don't want them to be kind of nervous about this new endeavor. So that would be my advice.
That's solid advice.
Yeah.
And my call to action would be stay tuned for next year, because we're going to have some exciting things. We're going to have some little technical shorts and some talking about some training and all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, we've got some things in mind. And our training center is kicked back up this year. So as COVID's kind of gone out, training has come back in. Yes. And so next year, looking forward to more popcorn machines and candy in the little shelving there. If you've been to our training center, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, check it out online at www.ellitek.com. That's ELLITEK.com. And Beth?
Yes.
Have a Merry Christmas.
You too. Happy New Year.
And a Happy New Year. We wish the same to all of our listeners out there. Make your call to action to spend time with family, get some downtime, relax a little bit. Those of you who are systems integrators and shut down, try to take a minute, but you may have your Christmas in January. Yeah. I understand. I get it. But best of luck and best wishes, and happy 2023.
Yeah. See y'all. Thank you for listening and watching.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out today's episode of Industrial Automation It Doesn't Have To. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, make sure you give us a rating that's pretty doggone high, and do that everywhere you listen, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'd really appreciate it. Also, don't forget about our website. That's www.ellitek.com. That's ELLITEK.com. If If you want to reach out to us there, you can fill out our contact form. We'd appreciate it. Also, you can email us at info@ellitech.com. And certainly for those of you that still like to dial the phone, give us a call, 865-409-1555. We'd love to hear from you.